any phone calls, Brad, of apology?
Yeah, I suppose I can take my tongue out of my cheek now. No apologies, and none required really. But you know, we made our intentions really clear throughout the week as to what our priorities were, and that was to provide the freshest and fittest available list to pick from this week. And we've done that. And whether people agree with that or not is irrelevant. I mean, it doesn't concern us one iota. But what does concern us is the early insinuations throughout the week that we were trying to manipulate a result, which we were definitely not doing. And that was the only issue for us. We live in an opinion-based world, and we play an opinion-based game, and everyone's going to have their opinion. They're entitled to it. But we won't make any apologies for doing what's right by our footy club.
How are the players feeling, the ones who have rested?
I hope they're fresh. Is it best direct that at Andrew, I think?
Andrew?
Yeah, I think the boys are feeling really good. So we had a light run on Saturday just to tick the legs over, the guys that could train, and yeah, feeling good. It's nice to, I suppose, have a bit of a break, you know, so close to finals, and give yourselves every opportunity. You know, I remember back to 2012 when we didn't do that and kept going, and we got into the final against West Coast over in Perth, and we were just cooked. So you know, to have half the guys who are going to play this week to be fresh and raring to go, you know, it's exciting.
Has selection become a bit more complicated, Brad? That with Kane Turner playing well, you've got Lindsay Thomas, seems to be touch and go. How difficult selection this week?
Oh, it will be difficult. I don't have any answers yet, but that was the intention, to make it really difficult for the match committee to have a full list of players to pick from in good form and at full fitness. So we'll address that later in the week, but you know, I don't have the answers right now, and it's going to be a process to work through, but it's a good problem to have.
Is Lindsay available?
Not as yet, but we haven't had our final medical clearance meeting this week yet, and we don't have our main session till later in the week, so we'll see how he comes up, but you know, we're pretty optimistic.
Is there a sense of the unknown this week, Brad? I can't imagine you've ever gone into a game with a preparation like this before.
No, we did something pretty similar last year. I mean, and we didn't just pluck an arbitrary number of 9 and decide that we'd rest 9 players. I mean, last year I think we did similar with Todd Goldstein, you know, Michael Ferrito, a few guys like that. And so, you know, we looked at certain players who we thought would benefit from that. So, no, I don't think we go into the unknown. We come up buys and those sorts of things all the time.
Brad, just the dynamic of playing the same team twice in 2 weeks, it doesn't happen very often. How do you sort of view it?
Oh, I think they're going to be very different weeks, obviously, from a personnel perspective. But, you know, I think Richmond have played a game style which has held up all year. It's got them into 5th position, and I don't think they changed much last week. I don't think they'll intend to change too much. But we're a lot more focused on what we want to do. You know, we played pretty well in parts last week, but you know, we're going to have to improve a lot to get over the top of Richmond this week.
Was another sort of aspect of, you know, resting so many players, was that also gave you a chance to sort of, I guess, keep your powder dry a bit with a week ago, or not really?
No, that didn't enter our thinking.
Do you take some confidence out of the fact last year you won 2 close cutthroat finals, and Richmond have yet to prove they can do that?
I'm not concerned about Richmond or giving an opinion as to what they think, but certainly we're an experienced, mature group that, you know, all of our players, or most of our players that'll be available for selection have played in finals. They've won finals, they've lost finals, and you can only benefit from that experience. So we're pretty well placed and well prepared.
Can I ask that to you, Andrew? I mean, how much does winning finals give you guys confidence?
Oh, it's massive, I think. You know, last year you could just see the group really grow over those couple of weeks. You know, where, as Brad said, we've got an experienced group of guys now. You know, got a couple of guys who have, you know, Nick Dalsano, Sean Higgins, Jared Wade from other clubs. So, you know, come in and really added to the group over the last couple of years and their experience. So, you know, we're excited and we feel like we're in a really good place at the moment.
Did you take much, Andrew, from watching the game from the stands last week? Anything that will help you going into this week?
Yeah, definitely. I think there's a couple of things that we could, you know, really pick up on. You know, as Brad said, we don't expect them to probably change too much. You know, they play some really good footy, and all year, and it's gone to a position. So just a couple of little minor things which we picked up on, and hopefully give us an edge on Sunday.
Tunnelling's become a bit of an issue. Are you comfortable? There was one free kick paid for it. Is it something you speak to Wayne Campbell about, or are you confident that they're on top of it?
No, we always let the umpires do their job. The only time we engage with the umpires department if there's something that we're doing to infringe. So no, we'll just let them do their job. Clearly that's been put on the agenda, but it wasn't put on the agenda by the North Melbourne Football Club.
It's obviously a couple of finals, as big as it is already, but also more generally seems to be a little bit more at stake given, I guess last season with Wade and Higgins, it seems like you've really loaded up. It's really given a tilt. Do you feel extra pressure at either of you going in, or is it just enough of it being a cutthroat final?
No, it's enough being a cutthroat final. It's amusing to me the added pressure or less pressure, or the result will be what the result will be. We live in the world again of when you make decisions, you live and die by them. They're either good decisions or bad decisions, judged by people who have got the benefit of hindsight.
Just with that tunnelling issue, do the Richmond defenders do anything different than opposition defenders do?
No, I don't think so. I think that that they've been using their body pretty well all season, so I don't know why it's such a big issue right now. We've got to counter that and work with our forwards on a technique to get around it. So, as I said, we'll let the umpires do their job. We'll focus on coaching our forwards so they can get an advantage, but it's not something that concerns me greatly.
Historically, Brad, it's been hard for a team to go from the elimination finals and get deep into September. Do you think the resting gives you that best possible chance to do that?
It can only help, in my view. Andrew referenced 2012 when we had to win a lot of games just to qualify for the finals, and then got bundled out in the first week with a pretty fatigued playing group. But I think we can also reference last year that having to win two pretty dynamic finals and tight finals meant that we travelled to Sydney in a preliminary final with a team that had been good for 2 weeks, had good momentum, but were pretty fatigued, and played against an opposition that were fresh after a week off on their home ground. So there's no doubt that freshening players up before potentially, if you're going to get there, you're going to have to play 4 really tough games, potentially interstate. So that certainly was part of our thinking.
The VFL team's both out now, Brad. What's the approach with Daniel Wells now? Is it still try and get him up and available if you go deep into September?
We're hoping to have him available this week. He had what we described as a 1-week calf last week, so we're hoping that he'll train this week and be available for selection, and then it'll become a match committee decision, not a medical decision.
His preparation obviously is not like everyone else's. What do you sort of do to try and get him in that fast pace?
We don't have to do much to get Wellesley into a fast pace, just getting medically fit. He came off a pretty limited preparation last year as well, and was a really influential player in the final series. So it's still our intention to try and get him back. He's working really hard with cross-training and running and getting himself match fit. Now that's difficult to do because he's had a limited number of matches to actually do that. So as Nick alluded to, we don't have a VFL game to play him in, so we'll have to do that through match simulation on the training track.
Would that be the biggest reservation, his match fitness, Brad?
Once he's medically cleared to play, yes. But he's a unique player, and there are lots of options for players with someone like Daniel Wells' capabilities.
Possibility is the sub?
Yeah, that's one of the options.
Yeah, he's got a history of sort of coming back after a long layoff and having an immediate impact. Does that give you guys confidence of him repeating it?
Yeah, it does. But again, we've got a lot of players who are fit and available for selection, so it's going to be weighing up all those factors, whether he's more benefit to the team than someone else.
Right, when the dust settles on his season, whenever that is, would you look at a Harley Bennell?
We'd look at all players to try and improve our list. But we've got a list management committee that get together and we work in collaboration. So I'm not the only person who's got a say on that. But we won't discount anyone without doing our due diligence, and clearly Harley is someone that would require some due diligence.
The chairman on Triple M last night said that a club was back their culture and their leaders to bring in a Harley Bennell to make sure he stays on the straight and narrow. I guess, do you echo those sentiments if it was to happen?
Oh, well, we're so far away from that our due diligence would be the first step in that process, and then we'd speak to our leadership group, and they'd have a significant say in